My name is Carly Palmer, and welcome to my evidence-based practice presentation. The practice I have chosen is dialogic reading. In this presentation, you will find an overview of dialogic reading, the steps for implementation, as well as the research and evidence supporting this practice. In summary, dialogic reading is simply children and adults having a conversation about a storybook. This practice can be used in both a school setting or in one's home. It is primarily used with emergent readers or primary age children. When using dialogic reading, the adult and children take turns telling and discussing the story. The adult uses questioning, models appropriate storytelling, introduces new vocabulary, and pauses at the end of sentences to allow the children to take part in the story and fill in the blanks. Research has shown that there are many benefits to incorporating dialogic reading into the classroom. The main goals of this practice are to enhance oral language, sentence structure, and vocabulary. Most importantly, dialogic reading has been found to be a great tool to increase the interest and love of reading in children from a very young age. To understand dialogic reading on a deeper level, it is helpful to break down what exactly it is as well as what it is not. It is important to know that dialogic reading can be used for all ages and levels, and as stated before, it is interactive and engaging throughout the entire story. Therefore, it is highly student-centered, as questions and key vocabulary terms are determined through students' needs and schema. That being said, this practice does require advanced planning, as teachers need to plan where they will stop to question, where they will allow students to fill in blanks, and take on the role as storytellers, and what new vocabulary they will teach. Furthermore, it is helpful to know what dialogic reading is not. Dialogic reading is not a simple read aloud that is strictly teacher-led. Conversation and questioning begins prior to reading the story and continues throughout the book, not just at the end of the book. When implementing dialogic reading, there are various types of questions the teacher can ask depending on the book and students. The acronym used to remember these types of questions is CROWD, crowd. In the next slides, I will introduce each type of question and give an example for each. A completion question is simply a fill-in-the-blank question. The teacher begins the sentence and the students finish the sentence in a choral fashion. Oftentimes, a teacher may choose a sentence that is repeated throughout the story. For example, the teacher may read the sentence, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blank," allowing the students to fill in "blow your house down" from the Three Little Pigs. A recall question is a question in which the answer is right there in the text. These questions demonstrate a basic level of comprehension and are typically about the story plot or characters. For example, when reading the story The Three Little Pigs, the teacher may ask, "What was the house made of that the big bad wolf could not blow down?" And the students would recall that it was made of bricks. Open-ended questions are questions that allow for varying answers and deeper thought from the listener. The answer is not found right in the text and requires students to use higher-order thinking skills. For example, the teacher may ask, "Why do you think the first pig chose to build his house out of straws?" And there may be multiple answers to this question. WH questions must always begin with who, what, where, when, or why, and have answers that are typically found right in the text. For example, an appropriate WH question for the book The Three Little Pigs would be, "What kind of animal was the big bad wolf after?" And students would reply, "Pigs." As previously stated, introducing new vocabulary is another critical goal in dialogic reading, along with questioning. Dialogic reading encourages teachers to pre-select and pre-teach new vocabulary terms prior to reading the story. The teacher should ask him or herself, what words will my students already know, and what new vocabulary words may be important to the meaning of the story or repeated throughout. In this slide, I have included 2 video examples of dialogic reading, one in a home setting and one in a classroom setting.
Dialogic reading.
When My Mama Reads to Me by Julie Elkus.
A simple conversation while sharing a picture book with your child has significant advantages. This practice, called dialogic reading, is an easy addition to your story time and promotes positive language and social development.
Oh, what do you see in this pretty picture? What is that?
Pictures.
Pictures. And what else do you see? A baby.
How you read with your children is as important as how often you read with them. Here's a simple way to remember how to use dialogic reading with your child. Comment on the picture. Wait for your child to talk. Ask questions about the picture. Wait for your child to respond. Respond by adding a little more to what your child says about the picture.
And what else do you see?
Elephant.
That's right.
2 elephants.
2 elephants.
Tiger.
A tiger. Good job. And where do you think they are?
And cheese.
Yep, they're in the trees at the zoo.
Here's something you can do today. Let your child choose a book with colorful pictures. Snuggle up together. Comment, ask questions, and respond. Use CAR to get your child talking. Dialogic reading makes a difference.
All right, this is Something from Nothing by Phoebe Gilman. Who do you think this is on the front?
Grandpa.
Grandpa? And the little boy. Let's see. The little boy whose name was Joseph. When Joseph was a baby, his grandfather made him a wonderful blanket.
It's broken.
Well, not yet. Remember, it's brand new. He just made it. One day, his mother said to him, Joseph, look at your blanket. It's frazzled, it's worn, it's unsightly, it's torn. It's time to...
Throw it away.
No, you don't. Do you think he wants to throw his blanket away? No. But his mom said it's frazzled, which means the edges might be a little frizzy. It's worn, which means parts of it are almost worn out, and it's torn. So, oh no, she wants to throw it away, but not Joseph.
Torn means it's like ripped.
It's ripped.
And he like finds it.
Yeah. Who can fix it? Grandpa can fix it, Joseph said. There's just enough material here to make... Oh, let's see. Do you remember what... Oh, you think the tie is next? Let's see. A wonderful jacket, which is another name for a coat. There's just enough material here to make a vest. And a vest is like a little jacket without sleeves on it. He said, and his scissors went, and his needle went. There's just enough material here to make... The tie is next. A wonderful tie that goes around his what? His neck.
It's like a scarf.
It's kind of like a scarf.
He's swimming with his clothes on.
Oh, he is swimming with his clothes. I think they're doing what? What are they doing, Luke? They're doing laundry? That's right. There's just enough material here to make a wonderful handkerchief. Does anybody remember what a handkerchief is?
You blow your nose and clean it.
And then you have to what? Wash it, right. It's kind of like a Kleenex you don't throw away. But Joseph uses his to keep his pebble collection safe. But as Joseph grew older, His handkerchief grew older too. His wonderful handkerchief. Thank you, Zoe. One day his mother said, Joseph, look at your handkerchief. It's been used till it's tattered, it's splotched, and it's splattered. It's time to throw it out. No way, that's right. I think she's had enough. Look, see, these big words mean she's getting loud. She's like, oh, throw it out. So even though he had no material left, he made something from nothing, didn't he? He made a story. Looks like the mice are wearing the jackets, the same material, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right.
I bet the mice got it.
You think the mice took his material? So he did. He made something from nothing. He wrote a story.
Yeah,
And I think
mice did it.
and you think the mice took his stuff? I think you're probably right.
Now I will take you through the implementation of this practice step by step. There is a series of steps the teacher or parent must take in order to implement dialogic reading accurately and effectively. These steps begin well in advance of the actual storytelling and conversation and continue throughout the entirety of the reading. The first two steps are done prior to the actual practice and reading. First, the adult must select an engaging picture book with lots of pictures, and both familiar and new vocabulary included. Next, the adult should pre-read the story and familiarize themselves with the vocabulary they will pre-teach as well as what questions they will ask and when. The next three steps happen during the shared storytelling process. Step 3 takes place directly after you have gathered the students in a quiet reading area. Before reading the story, the reader should introduce the story and begin asking questions and allowing students to make observations and predictions, typically using the front cover. For example, the teacher may ask, "What do you see on the front cover?" Next, as you begin reading the story, make sure to stop often to ask thoughtful questions. Review the pre-taught vocabulary, make comments, and respond to students' input. While reading, make sure to also find opportunities to make the storytelling interactive by pausing at the end of sentences to allow students to fill in the blanks. Along with the previously mentioned steps, there are a few tips for success when implementing dialogic reading. Always remember to provide enough wait time to allow for all learners to have enough time to think and respond. Evaluate a child's response and continue to prompt further if necessary to allow for deeper thinking. Always model appropriate storyteller skills such as expression and pacing, and provide praise for new learning and great ideas shared. As stated before, dialogic reading is not only fun and engaging for early readers, but also has many benefits and positive effects. There has been a good amount of studies and research done to prove that using dialogic reading increases students' interest in reading as well as early language and reading skills, more so than a simple read aloud. The IRIS website is one resource that has evidence to prove dialogic reading benefits. On their website, it states, "Dialogic reading was found to have potentially positive effects on communication and language competencies for children with disabilities." This indicates that the practice is useful for not only typical children, but children with disabilities, struggling or reluctant readers, or children who are struggling with communication skills. The website also gathered information and success rates from various studies and found that out of 7 studies, 6 were proven to enhance reading and language skills in young children. There are a few more studies and positive results I would like to share. In 2000, a study was conducted with 36 preschool-aged children in which Hargrave compared the progress between children who participated in typical read-aloud situations and children who were active participants in the storytelling process. This study showed that children who were exposed to dialogic reading made significantly more growth in their vocabulary and expressive vocabulary than those who just listened to stories read aloud to them. Secondly, studies have shown that not only do parents and teachers find dialogic reading useful, but speech pathologists do as well. One scholarly article states that speech therapists often use dialogic reading and realize that it provides a dynamic context that can be readily manipulated to conform to a particular child's language abilities and intervention goals. Therefore, dialogic reading is highly adaptable and can be differentiated to meet various levels and needs. Thank you for listening to my presentation on dialogic reading. I hope that you now see the benefits behind this engaging practice and find an opportunity to use dialogic reading to increase student vocabulary, conversation skills, and their overall love and interest in reading.